I will talk a little bit about NestJS and among my friends and in another job, this framework was very used and very known. But recently I changed jobs, and in this new job, well, there was different things. What is NestJS? NestJS is a framework. It's almost a new one. And for me personally, it's a very complete one. So let's know a little bit more about this. About me, my name is Arely Viana. I'm a software engineer, web developer. I've been in this industry for 4 years now, and I'm from El Salvador, but I love to travel. That's why right now I'm in Mexico City. And the languages that I work is Ruby, JavaScript, and PHP. Among my hobbies, well, I have some of them, but I love photograph, climber, and painter. The agenda for our talk, first of all, is what is the concept of NetJS. Why do I think this is the best? What makes it special? And then we are going to have a demo, build an API, and last but not least, the Q&A session. Well, what is it? NestJS, its creator is a framework in a very extensible, versatile, and progressive. And in just one way, I can say it that this framework is like the brother of Angular. If you already work with Angular, you remember that this is also a framework. And as a matter of fact, this framework is inspired and based in the other architecture. So if you already know Angular, you will see there are very similar things between the two of them. And the characteristics that are very important is extensible, versatile, and progressive. When I say extensible, this means that it's a modular architecture, and with this is very flexible. We can use several libraries from the external libraries, and also is versatile because it can adapt itself to any app, and is very solid app and with other frameworks. And also is progressive, and this means that it's updated with the last functions of JavaScript. And also we can also take into account or maximize the solid. And also, because it's a framework, there is a set of tools. In these tools, we can find, well, you can work with Node. It's also very strongly to use TypeScript, because it's a very flexible framework. It's a recommendation, and your life will be easier. Also, it can be adapted to types of ORM. The one is type ORM, and the other one is Prisma. I've worked with both of them, and personally, I love Prisma. But both are very important as ORMs. And below of this framework, it uses a lot of Express, and you can have the option of using Fastify. On the server part, you can have REST and GraphQL. We can present our app as a REST API or GraphQL. What does it solve? What is so special compared with other framework? Well, with this one, we have an established architecture that is proposing like a very ordered way. And if you have already worked with Angular or Vue framework, they don't have like a very strict architecture, but it's very easy. It's easier. So you can have this structure and our team can follow it. So the project can be very well done. And because this architecture is very complete, you can scalable your project if you want to grow up. So this, how is this architecture look like? Well, here are the basic concept. This is not like a law. We can adapt according to our project needs, but these are like the main concept. Decorators is a structural design pattern, and I put it here because you can use it a lot in this framework. DTOs, entities everywhere. If you don't know what is a decorator, is like functions where we can calculate and allocate things in other places. The basic architecture from the controller file, well, we can handle providers, controllers. Providers can do a set of things. Maybe a service, a repository, helpers, and we can use it in our files. And such as Angular, well, they use a modular architecture. What I say when I say model is this group of files that share something. For example, there is a model. Well, and this is new for you, but my presentation is full with cats because the icon of this framework is a cat. So I'm honoring this type of framework. The module that I will present you is about cats. And we are going to have different files, services, controllers, repositories, and they are going to share those files in the same model, and all of them are related with one Unity. Also, we have middlewares. This is a layer that comes before when there is a response. And we have our front end, and we do like a repetition in our API, and then we have the writer and the controller. And in that process, in the middle is the middleware. So is when we can do different things like validations, transformations of data. And that's why we can use this layer. And the other filters, pipes, guards, and interceptors, I think they are like middlewares, but Nest proposed this concept separately so we can have in an orderly way, and we can have like step by step, and we can know where this is going to be executed. So in this presentation, we are going to base in these four concepts. We can see a lot of examples, but let's see what I prepare. And also where we are going to focus on in the client side, the middleware, the route handle, and we can process all of this. And then we return to the client side and we can have all these steps. So let's see each and every one of them. Let's see, filters. NestJS has a main filter to handle sections. If there is one section in any point of the API, well, you can filter and don't see everything so long. For example, an error. However, we can create our own filters, and that's what we are going to see in our example. Then the second one is pipes, and it can transform or validate data. And when I say this, what I meant is if we have a string parameter and we want to change it with other data, and then validate is we have an input from an email and we want to validate that it's an email format. And then the guards. Well, according to certain conditions, well, through these ones, we are going to validate if we can process information or not. Also here we use normally like an authorization or authentication. Authentication is if the main user is the one and if it's logging or different roles, that part of the application must have this guard. So if there's some mistake or for example 403, we cannot allow the user what is happening. And last, we have interceptors. So intercept a response or a route or to alter or rewrite what is in that. In our example, we are going to see, or we are going to use this concept to map our response and the standard, how the answer should be in the API. Okay, let's start with our demo. These are the commands that I use, and the project is already done, but I will explain you the important areas or sections. First, okay, first we install the CLI of Nest. Then that CLI allowed us to create a project. When we want to start with a server, we need to check that our server is running. And then some packages that I use is typo REM, NestConf to handle all the configuration files. I also use a class validator library, and I use that library to validate some things in the project. This is like a scaffolding, NestJS resource create, everything that has to do with controllers, DTOs, services, other files, and the module. All my CAT model will have with this resource. For the examples, I have a guard, a filter, and an interceptor. I also use the flags because I want that folder to be saved. So let's see a little bit of this, more about this project. So this is what we already see. And let's start with our server so we can check that everything is working out. And I have a little problem here, and we are going to change the version. Okay, let's run the server. Here you can see with the logs that everything is working out, and also I already have something already programmed. This is like the post to create cats, get, to have all these cats, another get to specifically have the information of just one cat, a patch to edit, and a delete to delete it. So let's try it out. I use Postman and Insomnia, but for Mac, I could not install Postman. So I have this one. As you can see, I have here my endpoints. Let's try the first one. And I can have all the information about cats. I have the show, create, delete, and update. Very fast. Let's start seeing in the scaffolding, as I already mentioned. This creates a lot of files, and the cat model is all this. I have my cats model, where is I'm injecting all the things that I need. For example, controllers, providers, cat service, what is happening there. And I'm importing time OR model, that is these repositories to connect directly. So let's see first the service. The service, it just has the constructor functions: create, find, all, find one. And framework uses a lot of injecting these services. And also another repository, the name is type ORM. In this way, we already have access to this cat repository. To create, we are using these parameters, a DTO. DTO is a file where we can declare which things we need to connect through the net. For example, create, the user can be able to send me these parameters. And we also use a library to validate. I use in IS string, IS optional, IS boolean. Or if it's an email, I can write down this different type that I can use. I have also the DTO to update cats that partially extend this function. And this partial type also comes from this library, mapped types. And what is it doing is telling the DTO that all of them can be optional, not like this one. This parameter is that I don't want to be empty. Entities is super basic tool with all these attributes: ID, name, bio, a code, and maybe if it's adapted or no. In another framework, we have a migration concept and NestJS also has it. And right now, I don't have this function, but through side variable, I'm telling that when I write or I change something in my entity, automatically this will be synchronized. This file is here in configuration. And I have this type from the Nest library, and I have all the steps that I need to write down, and also the synchronization. This file or this constant we have in a main model that need to have an SJS app, and there is where you inject all the dependency or the other models that we are going to need in that app. The app model, you can see it like this. I'm importing my type OR file and I'm injecting in this one. In this way, we can synchronize both of them. Let's go back with our demo. We have, okay, we're going to see a lot of decorators. If I can write down if I want a nullable, unique, UUID, or maybe a default value, and the type of data, the length, the type. So we can check it out because I have, this is my database and my charts. As you can see, I have everything here. Auto-generate, false, the sequence, because with this decorator, I'm telling to create a column and will be the main key or the primary key, just here. Uniqueness is the code. And all of this, I don't need to write all the create table and the variable declaration and attributes. I don't know. I don't need to do all that. That's why the decorators are there. Let's, we already talked about DTOs and services. Let's check out controller. I'm using a lot of decorators. In the controller, I have cats because I want base cat of this line is cats. If I write here, for example, in Spanish, gatos, this will change and not cats, but gatos. For the root or the string is what I need is my IDs. And what I said, this framework uses a lot of injection. And another framework are files dedicated to routes or path. And I put the HTTP and I'm calling that from a library. And that's it. With this framework, the path or the route is with this such a verb or another instruction. This is like the basic of our main app. And now let's see the middleware concept. I already show you the middlewares and the instruction, and in any project, I love to use this option, and Nest will give you one. But in this case, I want that my exception has more data. For example, details, and to show me the time or the date. If I want to change this to 26, I'm telling the time where this request was done, the status, and the message. And I can add any other key. I also add some things, for example, response, and it's linked to the message key. But if it's an array, sorry, Arely, you need to summarize because we have another talk. Okay. So because we are running out of time, I will. But this presentation, well, the code is in my GitHub. You will see step by step in a very detailed way how to handle this NestJS filters, interceptors, and everything else. And the last that I want to show you is how to handle a beautiful format for a response. I add the data, the income data, and I can add metadata. So like this. It's not working, but for example, in this exam, I can add that it's a collection or different type of metadata, whatever. And well, I had other concepts of pipes, but the last thing that I want to share with you, is we can handle filters and guards in a global or partial way. This file, and if we want to handle something partially, we can do it directly with controllers or a token, and I use a guard in the controller level. Here we can see the logger if there is any error or mistake. And there's a lot of advantages of this framework. Unfortunately, we cannot see it, all of them with this little time. But anything, I don't know if you can share my presentation so we can see the last slide. I will leave you some recommendation and my contact information, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So you can check it out, the repo. And also you can send me an email if you want more information. Well, I can show you a lot of resources. Thank you very much.